Anxiety feels like a modern epidemic, but its cure might be 1500 years old. In the 3rd and 4th centuries, Christian monks, known as the Desert Fathers, abandoned everything for the harsh solitude of the Egyptian desert. They were not running from the world, but toward a radical inner peace, a stillness of heart they called hesychia. They believed the only way to conquer their inner demons was to face them directly in the silence. By the end of this video, you will have a practical toolkit of ancient wisdom to disarm your anxiety and reclaim a profound sense of calm. What did these hermits discover in their solitude that our hyper-connected lives have made us forget? How could trading constant noise for intentional silence possibly quiet a racing mind? What is the one simple practice they use to stop a spiraling thought in its tracks? If you feel overwhelmed by the pace of modern life, what might these ancient voices have to teach you about finding your own oasis of peace? Anthony the Great heard a single Bible verse read in church, a command to sell all you have and give to the poor. He took it literally. This was not a man with nothing to lose. He inherited a vast fortune, 300 acres of fertile land, a life of comfort. He gave it all away. For what? For a cave in the Egyptian desert, for a diet of bread and water, for a relentless battle against what he called the logismoi, the invasive thoughts that plague the human mind. He was not alone for long. Others followed, men and women like Pachomius, who created the first structured communities for these spiritual seekers. They were not misfits or outcasts. They were engineers, soldiers, scholars, walking away from a society that felt increasingly hollow. The late Roman Empire was a world of staggering inequality, political corruption, and endless noise. Its bustling cities, much like our own, were centers of ambition and anxiety, where the pursuit of more wealth, more status, more distraction left a deep spiritual hunger. Into that void stepped the Desert Fathers and Mothers. Their daily existence was a form of extreme training. The scorching sun and freezing nights were not just discomforts. They were teachers. The gnawing hunger was not a punishment. It was a lesson in distinguishing wants from needs. The crushing loneliness was not an accident. It was the very arena where they would confront their inner chaos. Every comfort we cling to today, they deliberately stripped away. Why would anyone choose such a life? Their goal was not self-punishment. It was hesychia, that untranslatable word for a stillness of heart, a quiet so profound it allows you to hear your own soul again. They believed you could not find that silence amidst the clutter of possessions and the chatter of society. You had to go into the emptiness to find the one thing that truly fills you. In our world of constant notifications and endless to-do lists, their radical choice starts to make a different kind of sense. What if your own mind is the desert you need to enter? The desert monks discovered that the greatest battle was not against the scorpions or the heat, but against the invisible invaders within their own minds. They called this practice nepsis, a state of vigilant watchfulness over the heart. Abba Moses, a former gang leader who found peace in the desert, offered a simple but devastating analogy. He said a thief cannot enter a house unless the door is left open. Your mind is that house, and every anxious, fearful, or angry thought is a potential thief waiting to sneak in and steal your peace. The goal was not to fight the thief once he was already inside, ransacking the place. The goal was to guard the door so he could not enter in the first place. This ancient insight is startlingly modern. It mirrors the core principle of cognitive behavioral therapy, which teaches that our thoughts are not facts, but merely mental events that we can learn to observe without being ruled by them. The Desert Fathers developed a precise method for this. The moment a negative thought arose, they would immediately notice it. They called this the prosoch, the act of attention. Then they would label it for what it was, not as a truth, but as a logismos, an invasive thought. They would say to themselves, this is a thought of fear, or this is a thought of resentment. They refused to engage with it, to entertain the guest, as they put it. They understood that feeding a thought with your attention, arguing with it, or building a story around it is what gives it the power to move in and take over. You can try this powerful disarmament technique right now. The next time an anxious thought pops into your head, perhaps a worry about a work deadline or a social situation, do not fight it. Do not argue, simply notice it with gentle detachment. Say to it quietly and firmly in your mind, "I see you, anxiety." By naming it, you separate your core self from the passing mental weather. You are no longer the storm, you are the sky observing the storm. This simple act of recognition closes the door. You consciously choose not to follow the narrative it is trying to sell you. You refuse to entertain the thief, and in doing so, you reclaim the keys to your own inner house. Guarding the door of your mind is a powerful first step, but the Desert Fathers knew that true peace required an even deeper practice. They fiercely protected their external silence because they saw it as the only gateway to an unshakable internal stillness. One of the most revered among them, Abba Arsenius, was a man who had been the tutor to Roman emperors. He left the incredible noise of the imperial court for the profound quiet of the desert. When a seeker once traveled a great distance to ask him for a single word of salvation, the old man simply looked at him and said, "Be silent." That was the entire teaching. He was not being rude. He was pointing to the most fundamental truth they had discovered. External noise fuels internal chaos. The constant input from our devices, the endless scroll of social media, the 24-hour news cycle, and our own relentless internal chatter, this modern cacophony is not neutral. It acts as a continuous drip of adrenaline for our nervous systems, keeping us in a low-grade but perpetual state of fight or flight. Your body does not know the difference between a stressful news alert and a physical threat. It reacts with the same ancient circuitry, releasing cortisol, tightening your muscles, and preparing for danger. This is why you can feel so exhausted after a day spent mostly at a desk. You have been in a state of constant, low-level emergency. The desert's profound quiet was the antidote to this very state. It was not merely an absence of sound. It was a presence, a space where the soul could stop reacting and finally begin to listen to itself. You do not need to flee to a cave to cultivate this. Start by committing to just 5 minutes of absolute quiet upon waking. Do not reach for your phone. Do not turn on the news. Simply sit or stand by a window and let the silence be. It will feel strange at first, even uncomfortable, because you are detoxifying from a noise addiction. Another powerful practice is to take a walk without headphones. Let the ambient sounds of the world wash over you without the curated soundtrack. Notice how your mind, deprived of its usual entertainment, begins to settle and decompress on its own. Or designate a digital desert hour each evening. This is a sacred space where screens go dark, and the only thing you are required to do is nothing at all. In that intentional emptiness, you are not missing out. You are, like Abba Arsenius, finding your way back to the one word that matters most. Silence is not a vacuum to be filled, but a skill to be practiced with the hands as much as the heart. The Desert Fathers held a radical belief that idleness was a playground for demons, a fertile ground where every anxious and destructive thought could take root and flourish. To counter this, their days were structured around a sacred rhythm of prayer and simple, repetitive manual labor. They wove baskets from reeds, plaited ropes, or tended small patches of desert herbs. This was not about economic productivity. It was a spiritual technology for grounding the soul in the tangible reality of the present moment. When your hands are busy with the simple, tactile rhythm of weaving a strand or turning the soil, your mind is pulled out of the abstract, future-oriented worries that are the very essence of anxiety. You cannot be fully lost in a catastrophic story about next week when your entire focus is on the feel of the fiber between your fingers, the precise motion of the stitch, the sight of a row being completed. This physical engagement acts as a powerful anchor. The repetitive nature of the work regulates your breathing almost automatically, slowing your heart rate and signaling to your nervous system that you are safe, that you are here, not in some frightening future your mind has manufactured. It becomes a form of moving meditation where the prayer is not just the words on your lips but the motion of your hands. You can bring this ancient practice into your own life by finding your version of manual labor. It might be knitting a scarf, sanding a piece of wood, repotting a houseplant, or even the mindful act of cleaning a room. The key is to shift your intention. Do not approach it as a chore to rush through, but as a sacred practice of mindfulness. Give the task your full attention. Notice the textures, the colors, the sounds. When your mind inevitably wanders to a worry, gently guide it back to the physical sensation of the activity, to the here and now. In that focused space, you're not just building a basket or weeding a garden. You are building a refuge from speculation, pulling your soul back into the safety of the present, where true peace is always found. There is a story of a desert monk who was widely admired for his extreme fasting and long hours of prayer. When a visitor came to praise him for these great achievements, the monk replied with a devastating truth. He said, "I have not yet learned to be humble." For all his physical discipline, he knew the real battle was not against his body, but against the pride in his own heart. This is the fourth wisdom, the radical embrace of humility as the ultimate antidote to anxiety. The Desert Fathers saw pride and the illusion of control as two sides of the same coin, a coin we desperately try to use to purchase a predictable future. We get anxious because we are trying to command the ocean. We want to control outcomes at work, to manage what others think of us, to force our life path to follow a precise and safe map. Humility, in their stark and beautiful view, is not about thinking less of yourself. It is about thinking of yourself less often. It is the simple, profound act of accepting reality as it is, without the constant, exhausting struggle to bend it to your will. This acceptance is what they called holy indifference, a state of serene trust. Do not mistake this for apathy or passive resignation. It is the very opposite. It is an active, courageous release of the tight grip you believe is keeping you safe, but is in fact strangling your peace. It is the practice of looking at a situation you cannot change, taking a deep breath, and saying the most liberating words you will ever utter. It is as God wills. You can begin to practice this today. When you find yourself spiraling into worry over a situation completely outside your control, a delayed flight, a difficult person, a sudden change of plans, pause. Acknowledge the part you can influence and then consciously, deliberately surrender the rest. Say to yourself, "I have done what I can. The outcome is not mine to command." This is not giving up, it is growing up. It is trading the crushing weight of playing God for the light burden of being human, trusting that a wisdom greater than your own fear is also at work in your life. The final weapon in the desert toolkit was perhaps their most portable and powerful. In the midst of a rising storm of fear or a sudden onslaught of temptation, they would not engage in a long, complex debate with their own thoughts. Instead, they would reach for a single, simple phrase, a short prayer repeated like a heartbeat. The most famous of these was the Jesus prayer, just a few words, "Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me." This was not a magic spell, it was a spiritual technology for immediate grounding. Think of it as an ancient form of biofeedback. When an anxiety attack begins, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid, your thoughts scatter, and you feel unmoored from reality. The Desert Fathers discovered that by attaching a short, rhythmic prayer to their breath, they could hijack this panic cycle. Inhale, "Lord Jesus Christ." Exhale, "Have mercy on me." The prayer gave their frantic mind a single, calming point of focus, while its rhythm forced their breathing to slow and deepen, physically signaling to the body that the emergency was over. This practice transformed their inner world into a portable monastery. Whether weaving a basket or facing a deep fear, they carried this anchor with them. You can forge your own anchor today. Your short prayer does not need to be religious. It can be any simple phrase that carries a sense of peace and truth for you. It could be the word peace itself, repeated silently. It could be a line from a poem or a simple affirmation like I am safe or I am here. The key is to choose one and practice it in calm moments so it becomes a well-worn path in your mind. Then, the next time you feel that first jolt of anxiety, when your chest tightens and the world starts to spin, do not try to reason your way out. Simply reach for your prayer. Breathe it in, breathe it out. Let the repetition become a tether, pulling you out of the chaotic future and back into the solid ground of the present moment. In that simple act, you are not just calming your nerves, you are building a portable oasis, a silence you can carry in your pocket wherever you go. A critical spirit is a cage you build for yourself. The Desert Fathers saw this with startling clarity, warning that the act of judging another person does not harm them, but instead turns inward, becoming a slow and steady poison for your own soul. Abba Poman offered a razor-sharp piece of advice that cuts right to the heart of our modern struggles. He said, "Do not give your heart to that which does not satisfy your heart." When you indulge in criticism and comparison, you are handing over the keys to your inner peace to something that can never, ever reward you. It is like drinking salt water to quench your thirst. It only deepens the ache. Now, place this ancient wisdom against the backdrop of your daily life, against the endless scroll of social media. Every time you measure your own messy, behind-the-scenes reality against someone else's curated highlight reel, you are giving your heart to something that cannot satisfy it. You are feeding a beast of envy and insecurity that, in turn, feeds your anxiety. The monk staring across the desert at his brother's more rigorous fasting schedule is the direct ancestor of you glancing at a friend's vacation photos and feeling a pang of inadequacy. The mechanism is identical and the result is the same, a restless, unsettled heart. Their radical solution was to relentlessly focus on your own inner landscape. Their phrase was, work on your own salvation, or more practically, sweep your own doorstep. This was not a call to self-absorption, but the very opposite. It is an invitation to redirect all the energy you waste on evaluating others back to the only piece of reality you can truly change, yourself. Imagine the mental bandwidth freed up when you stop mentally redecorating your neighbor's house and focus on building a home within your own soul. You can test this freedom for yourself with a simple but profound experiment, a judgment fast. For one day, make a conscious commitment to catch every critical or comparative thought that arises. The moment you notice yourself judging someone's choices or comparing your career to a colleague's or feeling envy over a possession, do not fight it. Simply notice it and then consciously replace it. Turn that judgment into a silent prayer or a genuine wish for that person's well-being. If you feel a spike of envy towards someone's success, mentally wish them even greater success. If you find yourself criticizing a stranger's behavior, send them a thought of peace. This is not about being fake. It is a spiritual exercise in reclaiming your mental real estate. You are actively sweeping your own doorstep, clearing out the clutter of judgment to make space for a genuine and lasting calm. The anxiety that thrives on comparison simply loses its fuel when you refuse to feed the fire. Even the most solitary hermit knew that a mind left to its own devices is a dangerous guide. The Desert Fathers and Mothers, for all their love of silence, were not islands of self-sufficiency. They understood that the inner world, when navigated alone, can become a hall of mirrors where every fear is amplified and every distorted thought starts to sound like the truth. This is why they would travel for days across the harsh desert, risking thirst and bandits, to ask a single burning question of a recognized elder, an Abba or Amma. One young monk, his heart in turmoil, made such a journey. He finally found the old man he sought and poured out his soul, listing all his struggles, his failures, his temptations. He ended with the only question that truly mattered. "Abba, how can I be saved?" the elder did not give him a complex set of rules. He simply looked at him and said, "Go to your cell, and your cell will teach you everything." This was not a dismissal, it was the deepest wisdom. He was telling the monk that the answers were not out there but within, but that he needed the elder's perspective to even begin to see them clearly. He needed someone to point him back to the one place where he could do the real work, the solitude of his own heart. This ancient practice speaks directly to our modern isolation. We often believe we should be able to handle our anxiety by ourselves, that reaching out is a sign of weakness. The desert wisdom turns this completely on its head. It insists that seeking wise counsel is a sign of profound strength and self-awareness. It is the recognition that you cannot see the label when you are inside the bottle. Your own anxious thoughts create a reality distortion field, making small problems seem catastrophic and convincing you that you are alone in your struggle. A trusted guide, whether a therapist, a mentor, a deeply grounded friend, or a support group, stands outside that distortion field. They can do what the Abba did for that young monk. They can listen without judgment and then reflect back to you the truth you already know but cannot access in your panic. They can gently point out the logismos, the invasive thought, and help you see the narrative you are building is just that, a story, not an unchangeable reality. They are the ones who can say, "I see you are scared, but look, the facts do not support this catastrophe." They help you close the door to the thief. Your own version of an Abba or Amma does not need to be a religious figure. It is anyone who embodies that rare combination of compassion and clear-eyed honesty, someone who can offer a perspective larger than your own fear. Making the choice to seek such guidance is not a failure in your solitary journey toward peace. It is, as the Desert Fathers demonstrated over and over, the wisest and most courageous step you can take on the path itself. Your mind is the cell you are called to inhabit. The Desert Fathers gave one instruction above all others to those tormented by fear: stay in your cell, and your cell will teach you everything. This cell was more than a physical hut of stone. It was a profound metaphor for the very ground of your being, your own heart and mind with all its chaos and beauty. To stay in your cell meant to stop running, both outwardly and inwardly. It meant refusing the instinct to flee your own uncomfortable feelings, to numb the pain with distraction, or to pretend the turmoil was not there. They understood that the demon of anxiety, which they called acedia, the noonday demon, grew in power only when you turned your back on it. The moment you turned to face it fully, to sit with it in the stark honesty of your cell, its terrifying facade would begin to crumble. This ancient practice is startlingly mirrored in modern exposure therapy. The principle is identical. When you avoid a feared situation, your brain learns that the thing is truly dangerous and the anxiety grows. But when you willingly and repeatedly expose yourself to that same trigger in a safe context, your nervous system unlearns the fear response. It discovers that the anticipated catastrophe does not occur. The anxiety, having no real substance to sustain it, simply loses its grip. You can apply this desert wisdom the next time a wave of anxiety washes over you. Your first instinct will be to escape. You will want to pick up your phone, turn on the television, or find some other way to flee your own inner cell. Instead, make a conscious choice to stay. Set a timer for just 5 minutes. Find a quiet space and sit down. Close your eyes and bring your full attention to the physical sensations of the anxiety itself. Do not try to analyze it or make it go away. Simply observe it with a gentle curiosity. Where do you feel it in your body? Is it a tightness in your chest? A churning in your stomach, a buzzing in your hands? Notice the thoughts that arise, not as absolute truths, but as passing mental events like clouds moving across the sky. Do not follow their stories, just label them. That is a thought about the future. That is a worry about money. This practice is the essence of mindfulness, and it is the modern equivalent of sitting in your desert cell. At first, it will feel intensely uncomfortable. The anxiety might even seem to get louder, screaming for your attention. But if you stay, something remarkable happens. By refusing to feed the feeling with resistance or fear, you stop giving it energy. You are simply sitting with it, and in that non-reactive space, the anxiety, like a desert demon deprived of offerings, begins to shrink. It loses its power not because you fought it, but because you finally stopped running. The cell teaches you that you are not your anxiety. You are the spacious, silent awareness that can hold it, observe it, and outlast it. Your own heart, when you dare to stay within it, becomes the greatest teacher of peace you will ever find. Abba John the Dwarf summed up a lifetime of spiritual work in one simple sentence. He said, "I have thrown away all my possessions and I am free." He was not celebrating a state of deprivation. He was declaring a victory over the invisible jailer of attachment. The Desert Fathers saw every possession not just as an object, but as a weight, a tether to the anxieties of the world. A fine robe was not just warmth, it was a concern for its upkeep and a potential for pride. A store of grain was not just food, it was a source of worry about rot, theft, or future scarcity. By choosing radical poverty, they were not punishing their bodies. They were performing the ultimate psychological maneuver, cutting the very cords that kept their hearts tied to a roller coaster of hope and fear. Their freedom came from having nothing left to lose and therefore nothing left to anxiously protect. Now hold that stark, liberating image in your mind and look at our own world. We live in a culture that operates on the exact opposite principle. Consumerism whispers a constant, seductive promise that the next purchase, the next upgrade, the next new thing will finally be the one that fills the inner emptiness. Yet this pursuit does not lead to the happiness it advertises. It leads to a different destination entirely: the heavy anxiety of debt, the exhausting chore of managing our clutter, and the relentless pressure of keeping up with a standard that is always moving just out of reach. You buy a new phone and for a week there is a thrill, but then you see the next model announced and a subtle dissatisfaction creeps back in. This cycle is not an accident, it is the engine of the entire machine. It manufactures a need only to temporarily soothe it, ensuring you will always come back for more, perpetually trapped in a state of wanting. The desert wisdom offers a way out, not by demanding you abandon everything, but by inviting you to see your possessions in a new light. It asks you to conduct what we might call a desert inventory. This is not just about cleaning a closet. It is a deep, honest audit of your life, looking for the clutter that is quietly draining your energy and creating a constant background noise of worry. Start with the physical. Walk through your home and look at your belongings not with sentimentality but with a simple question. Does this item serve my life or does it demand service from me? That stack of unwatched Blu-rays, the gadget you never use, the clothes that no longer fit, they are not neutral. Each one is a tiny anchor, holding you in a harbor of past obligations or future projects you feel guilty about not starting. Letting them go is not a loss, it is an act of creating space both literally and mentally. Then move to the digital. Your phone is a pocket-sized marketplace of anxiety. How many unread emails are sitting in your inbox creating a low-grade hum of incompletion? How many apps do you have that you never use, each one a small demand on your attention? A digital desert inventory means ruthlessly unsubscribing from newsletters that do not enrich you, deleting apps that waste your time, and organizing your digital space with the same intention you would a physical room. Finally, consider your social clutter. Are there commitments on your calendar that you dread, relationships that exhaust you more than they nourish you, simply because you feel obligated? Saying no to these things is not rude. It is a profound declaration that your inner peace is more important than external approval. The freedom Abba John discovered is available to you not in a cave but in the courageous act of letting go. You begin to discover that true security was never in what you owned, but in the unshakable calm of who you are without it. The desert was never meant to be an escape but a homecoming. It is the stark, challenging landscape where the soul, stripped of all its distractions, finally meets itself. We have walked through 9 pieces of ancient wisdom, from guarding the door of your mind to the liberating power of letting go. This is not a philosophy to be admired from a distance, but a living toolkit tested by time and the harsh sands, designed for the anxious modern heart. The common thread weaving through every practice is this profound shift from trying to control the uncontrollable world outside to undertaking the quiet, courageous work of inner transformation. The real challenge begins now in the quiet of your own life. This week, choose just one. Perhaps it is the simple act of noticing an anxious thought and gently closing the door, refusing to entertain the thief. Or maybe it is carving out 5 minutes of absolute silence upon waking, a digital desert hour to reclaim your inner stillness. The desert is not a place on a map. It is a state of heart you can cultivate anywhere, a portable oasis of peace built from these ancient practices. Let us know in the comments which piece of Desert Father wisdom resonated most deeply with you. And if you found this journey valuable, subscribe for more explorations into the timeless truths that can heal our modern lives.